I'm Elli. I've been teaching for about 26 years. I've taught in Scandinavia, Central Europe, and more recently, I've been teacher training in the Middle East. I've got some particular interests, one in teaching younger learners, teaching pronunciation, and in general teacher development. Listen, this is a story about me, my story, this weekend. Okay? Are you ready? Listen, just listen. Don't speak, just listen. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready? Okay. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present for my son because it's his birthday very soon. On Saturday, I'm going to have lunch with my daughter, and on Sunday, I'm going for a walk with all my children. Okay? Again?
Again, please.
Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present for my son. Which one? This one. Okay? Because it's his birthday very soon. No writing. Don't write. Just listen. Listen. Okay. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present for my son because it's his birthday very soon. On Saturday, I'm going to have lunch with my daughter. You know my daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have lunch with my daughter, and on Sunday, I'm going to go for a walk with all my children. 3 ideas. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present for my son. Listen, and watch, look. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present. What's this word? Okay, watch again. Tomorrow afternoon, I am going to buy a present.
Baya.
Aha. Tomorrow afternoon, I am going to buy a present. What's this word?
Baya.
Aha. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present.
present.
Buy a present, okay?
Right.
Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to buy a present for my son. How many words?
12. Oh.
What were you trying to achieve in that lesson?
It was a very, very accuracy-based lesson. Now, those students some of them are real beginners. We don't often get real beginners any longer for obvious reasons. You know, it's a world language, English. So most people who come here as beginners, they will be false beginners or people who've had some exposure. The disparity between somebody who's a real beginner and somebody who's a little bit better is very noticeable. And although some of those students could produce this language fairly well, some of them were very, very inaccurate. So this was a lesson where I was trying to keep them all on board. It was very, very accuracy based. We've already looked at going to future, but they're very, very, very inaccurate. So that's okay sometimes, but in this particular lesson, I wanted accuracy. I wanted to be very, very demanding with them and for them to see all those bits of that language.
In your lesson, you're very careful about the way you model sentences. You use your fingers to show stress and words and things like that. Why are you careful in that way about how you model sentences?
You will probably have noticed that I didn't put the language on the board to start with. I think this is more demanding. It's an option to put it on the board straight away. But I think it's more, I use the word demanding again, or challenging for the learners. If they hear it, what they're doing is they're hearing the language as it's spoken, and then don't write it down, hang on, listen to it again, and as I show them the words, they can see the language in their mind's eye. So those learners who perhaps are more visual, let's say, have the opportunity of seeing that pattern in their mind's eye before they see it written down. So I suppose I'm trying to appeal to different learning styles perhaps there.
What's special about teaching beginners? I mean, particularly in contrast to teaching intermediate students or advanced students.
In terms of methodology, there are obviously less opportunities for things like pair work and group work, whereas more advanced students can put them in pairs, they can speak for quite a while, and you can have a speaking lesson which might even take half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. They can stay the distance, but with beginners, of course, despite the fact they haven't got very much language, they can do a little fluency work, but very often the focus will come back to the teacher again. So it's quite demanding in those terms. Of course, if you like to be an upfront teacher, then it's very nice teaching beginners.
And what about the kind of language you use with beginners and more advanced students? So how do you choose the language you use, or is that something you do automatically?
I've been teaching for a long time, so I think it is an automatic thing, but yes, it's a good question. Obviously, one has to be very, very careful not to use colloquialisms in instructions and to use lots and lots of body language to support instructions. You can use natural language, you don't have to go into pidgin English, but it needs to be supported with lots of mime and lots of gesture.
The way you talk to students, talking naturally to beginners, not using pidgin English, is that something you learn how to do, or is that something that just comes naturally with experience?
I think both. Yes, it comes like everything comes with experience. You get better at doing it, but I think it's something that you can learn. I'm a teacher trainer, and when I work with teachers who are taking an initial training course, typically one of the criticisms will be you speak too much and the language you're using is too complex. And often I'm asked the question, well, what do I do about that, Ellie? How can I stop that? And my answer to that is just stop. I think if you just stop babbling, it's a pejorative word, but if you stop babbling and just listen to or think before you speak and become more conscious of the language you're just about to produce, then that's the first step in reducing the amount of language you use and noticing more what you're saying and then noticing what the students are saying.
But of course the language teachers use to beginners, I mean outside the actual models they give, that's terribly important for their acquisition of language, for them to listen to language. So it's quite important that teachers do talk to students.
I agree. So it's like what Krashen called comprehensible input. As long as we make it comprehensible to them. And certainly I think that teachers need to avoid distorting the language just because the students are very low level.
By speaking too slowly or
by speaking too
terribly woodenly.
Exactly,
or something like that.
exactly, yes. I mean, the risk is then patronising the learners. We don't want to do that.